The story begins with the protagonist, Evan, a former tech entrepreneur, living a relatively normal life before the world changes overnight. Evan is in his apartment, scrolling through his phone while sipping coffee. The news is full of reports about a new virus spreading across the world, but nothing too alarming, at least, that's what everyone thought. He thinks little of it, dismissing the warnings. But soon, things escalate. An alarming news flash breaks through on all networks, announcing a sudden, catastrophic global breakdown. Cities fall silent as hospitals are overwhelmed. A chaotic emergency broadcast advises citizens to stay indoors, and within hours, society unravels. Evan's peaceful life turns to chaos when his phone starts blowing up with messages from friends, family, and colleagues, all trying to understand what is happening. The virus spreads quickly, and reports come in of people becoming violent, their bodies changing as they lose all humanity. The protagonist learns that the infected are not just sick, they are transformed into mindless, aggressive zombies, and worse, they are quick and relentless. The first attack happens when Evan's apartment building is breached. A neighbor, once friendly and familiar, becomes infected. He tries to break into Evan's apartment, only to be killed by a mysterious man in a black jacket. The stranger warns Evan to leave immediately. "They're coming for all of us," he says with a cold, grim look. As Evan's building falls into disarray, the threat of being trapped in his home looms. The once bustling city streets outside have descended into an apocalyptic nightmare. People are looting, panicking, and fighting for their lives. Evan decides he has to leave, but with nowhere to go, no one to trust, in a world that's rapidly turning hostile, every step could be his last. Evan steps out of his apartment, the city streets now a war zone. The familiar hum of life has disappeared, replaced by an eerie silence punctuated by the distant sounds of sirens, screams, and the occasional crash of glass shattering. He hesitates for a moment, looking around at the chaos that's unfolded in mere hours. His mind races, trying to process what's happening, but there's no time for confusion. Every moment is critical. He has no plan, no destination, only the urgent need to survive. Evan makes his way through the building's stairwell, avoiding the elevator for fear of being trapped. The front door is wide open, and the lobby is flooded with panic-stricken tenants, some armed with makeshift weapons, others frantically packing bags. A few of them are already covered in blood, their eyes wild with fear. He hears a young woman shouting, urging people to leave before it's too late. "Evan! Over here!" It's his neighbor, Sophia, her voice breaking through the din. She's standing with a small group, looking scared but determined. She motions for him to join them. He doesn't know Sophia well, but in this moment, the safety of numbers is too tempting to ignore. He approaches cautiously, wary of any sudden movements. "Is it safe to leave?" he asks, glancing around nervously. Sophia shakes her head. "There's no safety, Evan. But if we stay here, we'll be sitting ducks. The infected are everywhere. We need to get to the outskirts of the city, away from the chaos." A man in the group, James, speaks up. "We have a car. But it won't matter if we don't leave now." His voice trembles with both urgency and fear. Evan nods, unsure of how much trust to place in these strangers. But right now, it's the only option. Without a second thought, he follows them out of the building. The streets are desolate, littered with abandoned cars, overturned trash bins, and broken windows. The further they walk, the more ominous the environment becomes. Their breath hangs thick in the air as the sun sets, casting long shadows over the decimated city. As they move through the empty streets, a sudden noise freezes them in their tracks, shuffling feet. Evan looks around, his heart pounding in his chest. Through the alleyway, he sees the first of the infected. A group of people, once normal, but now unrecognizable, their skin mottled and decayed, stumbles toward them, driven by an insatiable hunger. "We need to move. Now," Sophia whispers, gripping a crowbar tightly. Without a word, they break into a run, weaving through the streets, the sound of their footsteps the only thing louder than the shuffling of the infected behind them. As they round a corner, Evan looks back, seeing the horrific sight of a crowd of the undead chasing after them. Their eyes are vacant, but there's something in the way they move, a terrifying, relentless instinct to hunt. The group races toward an old gas station. They're only a few hundred yards from safety, but the distance feels like a lifetime. Just as they reach the entrance, a low growl erupts behind them. One of the infected has caught up. The man from the group, James, turns to face it, raising a baseball bat to protect them. "Go! Get inside," he yells. Evan doesn't hesitate, pushing forward and diving into the gas station's dilapidated convenience store. Sophia and the others follow close behind, but as they do, they hear the sickening sound of James' scream. It's cut short as the infected swarm him, dragging him down into the darkness of the street. Evan doesn't have time to process the loss. They lock the door, but it won't hold long. The infected are already pounding against the windows, their claws scraping the glass with terrifying persistence. Inside the store, the group is now frantic. The shelves are nearly empty, with nothing but a few cans of food and some bottled water. But that doesn't matter. Evan feels a cold sweat running down his spine. "What do we do now?" Sophia asks, her voice shaking. "We need to get to the car," Evan replies, his mind racing. The car is their only ticket to survival. Without it, they'll be trapped here, and the infected will slowly pick them off one by one. They can hear the growls getting louder. The group looks around, searching for a way out. The door won't hold forever. The infected are relentless, and Evan knows their only chance is to get to that car. They move quickly, slipping through a back door and into the dark alley behind the gas station. With every step, Evan can feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. The city is no longer a place he recognizes. It's a wasteland, and every decision, every movement, could be his last. The alley is narrow, littered with broken glass and debris. As Evan and the group move swiftly, he can hear the infected growling and scraping at the gas station door behind them. Every footstep echoes like a countdown in his mind. He fights the urge to look back, knowing the more they focus on the past, the less they can protect their future. Sophia leads the way, her pace steady despite the chaos around them. Evan's eyes dart from one shadow to the next, half expecting the infected to appear at any moment, clawing their way through the darkness. Every sound is magnified, the creak of a distant door, the shuffle of feet, the whistling wind carrying the distant cry of a victim. They reach the parking lot where the car is supposed to be, but Evan's heart sinks when he sees it, a black SUV, its windows shattered, doors left wide open. The keys are nowhere in sight. "It's gone," says Mark, one of the other survivors, his voice tinged with disbelief. The car's been stripped. Evan feels a pang of hopelessness grip him. The car was their only hope of escaping the city, a means to get out, to get to some place, any place, that might still be safe. Without it, they are left stranded, just another set of prey for the monsters lurking in the shadows. "We need to find another car," Sophia says, her voice sharp. "There's a garage a few blocks down. If we hurry, we might still find something intact." But as she turns to lead them toward the street, the unmistakable sound of footsteps reaches their ears, the heavy, slow, dragging gait of the infected. Evan's breath catches in his chest. A small group of the undead rounds the corner ahead, their vacant eyes locked on the survivors. Evan motions for the group to stop, and they huddle in the shadow of a nearby building. His heart races in his chest. There's nowhere to run. No cover. Just them, and the infected, who are getting closer with each agonizing second. The infected stop at the entrance of the alley. They sniff the air, their heads jerking in every direction like animals on a hunt. Then, one of them spots the group. Its jaw opens wide, revealing decayed teeth, and it lurches forward, a low growl reverberating through the night. A wave of panic surges through Evan, but he forces himself to stay calm. "We have to go now," he whispers, voice trembling. They move as quietly as they can, stepping carefully over the broken asphalt. Every step feels like an eternity. Evan is acutely aware of the silence around them, the soft scrape of their shoes against the pavement, the gentle rustle of their breath, the tiny cracks of glass underfoot. But despite their best efforts, it isn't long before another infected notices them. This time, it's a woman, her clothes tattered, skin gray and blistered. Her mouth snaps open as she growls, drawing attention to the others. The group is closing in, their gnarled hands reaching forward, desperate to sink into warm flesh. "Run!" Sophia screams. The group bursts into motion, bolting down the alley with the infected hot on their heels. Evan can hear their ragged breathing, his own pulse pounding in his ears. He doesn't look back. He can't afford to. As they sprint toward the street, they hear a loud crash. A group of infected have begun to chase them, but another one, a lone figure, appears ahead of them. It's more agile, moving with purpose. Its eyes lock on Evan with terrifying intent. Suddenly, the world seems to narrow to just him and the creature. Time slows as it lunges toward him, a scream building in Evan's throat, but he has no choice but to brace himself. At the last possible moment, Mark, who's been running beside him, shoves Evan aside. The infected's claws sink deep into Mark's back, and the man cries out in pain before crumpling to the ground. The creature's teeth sink into his throat, and blood begins to pool in the streets. "Keep going!" Mark screams, even as he struggles beneath the undead's assault. "Don't stop!" Evan's legs shake as he keeps running, every instinct screaming at him to turn and help, but he knows he can't. The rest of the group continues on, just ahead, and they break into the street, hoping to outrun the nightmare behind them. The city around them is a dark labyrinth, filled with potential death at every turn. They turn the corner and spot a line of parked cars along the side of the road. Sophia charges ahead, pushing through the wreckage of abandoned vehicles, trying door handles as she goes. The others fall in line, desperately seeking refuge. Finally, Sophia finds a car that still seems to work. The engine purrs to life with a roar that almost feels like a betrayal in the still night. "Get in," she yells, and the group piles into the vehicle, Evan sliding into the back seat. The engine revs as Sophia speeds down the street, tires screeching, and the car lurches forward into the open road. But as they speed away, the city lights grow dimmer, swallowed by the darkness of the unknown. The danger is far from over. The car's headlights cut through the dark streets, illuminating the twisted wreckage of the world that once was. Evan's breath is shallow, his pulse still pounding in his ears. The vehicle speeds through the deserted city, past the skeletons of buildings and overturned cars. The silence in the car is oppressive, broken only by the roar of the engine and the soft hum of the tires on the cracked pavement. In the back seat, Evan can feel the weight of the loss sinking in. Mark is gone. The man who tried to save him is now just another casualty in a world that's collapsing, piece by piece. The thought gnaws at him, but he forces it aside. There's no room for grief now. Only survival. Sophia grips the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white, her eyes scanning the road ahead. The others, James' wife Lena, and a man named Victor, are silent beside him, their faces grim, haunted. They don't speak, none of them know what to say. The space between them feels vast, like an invisible barrier that no one dares to cross. Finally, after what feels like hours, Sophia breaks the silence. "We need to get out of the city. If we stay here, we're dead. The infected are everywhere. I don't know how much longer we can keep going." Her voice is raw, but steady. Evan looks out the window, the buildings gradually thinning as they drive through a more industrial area on the outskirts of the city. The streets are empty here, devoid of any sign of life. He's not sure which scares him more, the fact that there's no one left, or the fact that there's still no sign of safety. "We need to find a place where we can regroup, maybe a compound or something fortified," Victor suggests. He's tall, with dark hair and a rugged face. His tone is almost flat, like he's lost the ability to feel anything at all. "Somewhere we can figure out what to do next." Sophia shakes her head. "I don't trust any of the so-called safe zones. You've seen what happens when people try to hoard. There's no real safety. No place to hide." "Then what?" Lena chimes in, her voice trembling. "What's the plan, Sophia? We just drive until we run out of gas?" Sophia doesn't respond right away. The tension in the car thickens as the distance between them and the city grows. The road ahead is empty, nothing but darkness and uncertainty. They pass the occasional abandoned gas station, a crumpled road sign, but nothing that offers even a glimmer of hope. The world outside feels alien now, like a place they no longer belong. Evan leans forward, his eyes scanning the horizon. He can't shake the feeling that they're being watched. The woods to their left are dense, shrouded in an almost unnatural blackness. His mind starts to race with thoughts of what lies beyond the trees, more infected, more dangers that are too terrifying to even consider. "We need to find shelter," he says, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "We can't just keep driving aimlessly. If we run out of gas, we'll be sitting ducks." Sophia nods, eyes still locked on the road. "I know. There's a truck stop up ahead. We can rest there for a few hours, regroup, and figure out what to do next." The truck stop is just as empty as the rest of the world. The lights are dim, flickering in the wind, and the sign is barely visible from the road. The place looks abandoned, but Sophia parks the car near the entrance, her fingers hovering over the brake. The others exchange wary glances before exiting the vehicle. They stand in the eerie silence of the truck stop, their footsteps muted by the cracked pavement. The stillness is unnerving, and the lack of any human presence feels like a warning. Inside, the gas station is dark, save for the faint light filtering through the grimy windows. Evan's instincts are on high alert. Something's off. He can feel it, the same sensation that's haunted him since the moment everything went wrong. "We should check the building first," Evan suggests, his voice barely above a whisper. "Make sure it's clear." Sophia nods again, and they enter cautiously, weapons at the ready. The door creaks as they push it open, the sound far too loud for comfort. Inside, the truck stop looks like it hasn't been touched in days. Empty shelves, discarded food wrappers, and overturned chairs litter the floor. The air smells stale, like something left to rot. Lena clutches Evan's arm, her eyes wide with fear. This place feels wrong. Before Evan can respond, they hear a noise, a faint scraping sound coming from the back of the store. Everyone freezes. Sophia's hand tightens around the crowbar she's holding. "Stay quiet," she whispers. They move as one, creeping toward the back, where the sound is coming from. It's faint, but it's there, like something, or someone, scraping against the walls. As they round the corner, they spot movement. A figure stands in the dark, half-shadowed and hunched. It's too still, too unnatural to be human. "Who's there?" Evan calls out, his voice low. The figure doesn't answer. Instead, it steps forward into the dim light, revealing itself to be another survivor. But something is off, its eyes are wild, its clothes torn, and its skin is pale, almost sickly looking. "Please, help," the man croaks, his voice raspy and weak. I can't go on alone." But there's something in his voice, something in his eyes that tells Evan this is no ordinary survivor. It's the look of someone who's seen too much, and maybe, just maybe, something far darker than the infected. "Stay back," Sophia warns, stepping forward. "We don't know who you are." The man sways, his hand reaching out like a lifeline. "They're coming. They're everywhere. You have to run." But before anyone can react, a loud crash echoes through the back of the store. The wall splits open, and more infected stumble through, their bloodshot eyes focused on the new prey. The trap has been set. The air inside the truck stop thickens with tension as the infected lurch forward. Their grotesque bodies shuffle and groan, teeth gnashing in hunger, eyes fixated on the fresh meat standing in front of them. Evan's heart skips a beat as his mind processes the situation. They are surrounded. There's nowhere to run. The back of the store is blocked by the grotesque figures stumbling through the broken wall, and the front door is too far to reach in time. Sophia's hand tightens around the crowbar, and her eyes flash with determination. "Get to the car. Now," she yells, voice sharp and commanding. Before anyone can react, the man who had warned them collapses to the ground, his body jerking violently as he convulses. The sound is sickening, and for a moment, The survivors freeze, watching in horror as his limbs snap and twist in unnatural directions. His mouth opens wide, a guttural growl escaping from deep in his throat. Too late, the man gasps, his voice cracking. They know you're here. Evan doesn't wait for the rest of the group to respond. The infected are closing in, and there's no time left. Without a word, he bolts toward the front of the store, Lena and Victor close behind. The echo of their footsteps is drowned out by the terrifying growls of the undead, who are now clawing at the floor, trying to move faster. They are relentless. As they reach the door, the glass shatters with a sudden crash, the infected pouring into the store from all directions. There's no room to breathe, no room to think. Move! Evan yells. They burst through the front door, barely managing to slip past the thrashing bodies of the infected. The night air feels like a relief, a brief moment of freedom. But that relief is short-lived as they race toward the car, the distant howls of the undead growing louder. Sophia's hands fumble with the keys, her breath ragged as she tries to unlock the doors. Come on! Victor shouts, looking over his shoulder at the growing horde. Evan reaches the car first, flinging open the back door and diving inside. He can feel the heat rising from the engine as Sophia slams her door shut and fires it up. The engine roars to life, but the sound is drowned out by the sound of dozens of infected charging toward them, their footsteps thudding on the pavement. The tires screech as Sophia slams her foot on the accelerator. The car lurches forward, but the road ahead is narrow and winding. They are still too close to the truck stop, and Evan can see the figures of the infected pursuing them, their twisted forms just on the edge of his vision. Keep going! Lena screams from the back seat, her voice panicked. We need to lose them. Sophia pushes the car faster, swerving around debris and wreckage in the middle of the road. The city is no longer a place that makes sense. The streets are tangled in chaos, with abandoned vehicles blocking paths, fires smoldering in the distance, and the occasional distant scream. Evan watches in the rearview mirror, his stomach sinking as the infected draw closer, their once human faces twisted with malice. Faster, faster! Victor urges. They're not slowing down. But it's clear the car won't be able to outrun them for long. The road ahead is becoming more treacherous, the asphalt torn apart in some places, leaving wide gaps that could easily send them off course. The city may be falling apart, but the infected have no sense of fear, no sense of slowing down. They need to leave the city entirely. Take the next exit. Evan yells. Sophia nods, veering off the main road and onto an old highway that looks less traveled, more isolated. The buildings fall away, and the landscape changes as they leave the city behind, entering an empty, desolate stretch of land. For a moment, Evan allows himself to believe they might have escaped, at least for now. But the sight of the infected crowding the city behind them is a constant reminder that they're never truly safe. The car hums along the highway, the tires kicking up dust as the city shrinks behind them. The windows are rolled down, and the wind rushes in, carrying the scent of burnt wood and the faintest smell of decay. The group is silent, the adrenaline of their escape fading into exhaustion. But then, as the car speeds forward, a low rumble cuts through the night air. It's a deep sound, almost like thunder, but more menacing. Evan looks out the window, his eyes narrowing as he spots the source, a convoy of military vehicles up ahead, their headlights glowing eerily through the darkness. This doesn't look good, Sophia mutters, her grip tightening on the wheel. We don't know who they are or if they'll help us. Before Evan can respond, the military vehicle's lights flash brighter, and the sound of engines revving fills the air. It's clear they've noticed the survivors, whether as a threat or as something they can help is still unclear. But one thing is certain, the world is no longer a place they recognize. And the further they go, the more uncertain the road becomes. The convoy is moving closer, and there's no telling what will happen next. The convoy looms ahead, its headlights slicing through the night like a beacon of uncertainty. Evan's heart races, his mind racing with questions. Who are these people? What do they want? The fact that they're military suggests they might be there to help, but something in the pit of his stomach tells him it's not that simple. The world has changed, and with it, the lines between friend and foe have blurred. Sophia slows the car, eyes narrowing as she approaches the convoy. She hasn't taken her foot off the gas entirely, keeping the engine purring with readiness to accelerate at a moment's notice. Lena, Victor, and Evan sit tensely in the back seat, glancing out the windows as the convoy moves to block the road. There's no escape now, not unless they fight. I don't like this, Sophia mutters, her knuckles turning white on the steering wheel. Evan's voice is low but firm. We don't have much of a choice. We'll just have to trust them for now. The convoy finally comes to a halt, and several men and women in fatigue step forward, armed to the teeth, their weapons trained on the approaching survivors. The soldiers move with practiced precision, their movements sharp and efficient. There's a moment of silence, an unspoken standoff, as Sophia rolls down the window a crack, her eyes never leaving the soldiers. A woman in her mid-30s steps forward, a scar across her cheek, her expression hard but calculating. Her rifle hangs loosely in her hands, though Evan knows better than to assume she isn't ready to use it. "Who are you?" the woman asks, her voice clipped, stern. "What are you doing out here?" "We're just trying to survive," Sophia responds, her voice steady, though Evan can hear the edge of caution. "We don't want trouble. We're looking for a safe place." The woman stares at her for a long moment, then glances at the others in the car, assessing each of them with a cold gaze. "Safe place," she repeats. "There's no safe place. This whole world's gone to hell." Evan can't help but notice the way she says it, like she's seen things no one should ever have to. "You got any supplies?" the woman continues. "Food, water, weapons." "We have some food," Victor answers quickly, his voice careful. "And a few weapons. We're low on gas, though." The woman nods, seemingly satisfied with his response, but there's a new calculation in her eyes. "You're welcome to follow us. But don't expect any handouts. We're not running a charity here." The woman motions for one of the soldiers to check the car. He approaches, scanning the vehicle and everyone in it with practiced suspicion. Evan's pulse quickens. Everything in him is screaming to get out of there, but he knows that running now would be a death sentence. The soldiers are closing in, and it's too late to back out. "Where are you headed?" Sophia asks, her voice steady but her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and determination. "We've got a base not far from here," the woman replies. "A fortified location. But we've had issues with our supply lines being cut off. We need manpower, and we don't bring in anyone who can't pull their weight. Understand?" Evan nods, his eyes flicking to the soldiers standing around them, their guns aimed in every direction. The tension is palpable, and he knows that one wrong move could turn this into a bloodbath. "What's your name?" Lena asks, her voice softer than before, almost a whisper. The woman looks at her for a moment before answering. "Captain Sarah Pierce." "All right, Captain," Sophia says, drawing the attention back to her. "We'll follow you. But I want to know something. What's the plan? What happens next?" Sarah's face hardens. "You get to the base. You make yourself useful. If you can't, well, then you're on your own. We don't have time for people who can't pull their weight. The infected are everywhere. We're fighting for what little we have left." "Understood," Sophia replies, her voice firm. With that, the soldiers begin to move, and the convoy starts up again, slowly but deliberately. Sophia follows, her eyes flicking from the rearview mirror to the road ahead, her expression tight. As they drive, the landscape around them becomes even more desolate. The highway stretches on endlessly, a winding ribbon through an empty world. The sun has long since set, and the darkness feels heavier now, oppressive and suffocating. Evan can't shake the feeling that this place, this so-called safe base, is not what it seems. The further they go, the more it feels like they're driving into the unknown, a place where the rules of survival are set by those with the power to enforce them. The convoy slows as they approach a large, rusted gate at the edge of a barren field. The gate creaks open, and Evan can see a few soldiers posted on the walls, their rifles trained on the vehicle as they pass through. There's a small cluster of buildings inside, looking far from the ideal place of refuge he had hoped for. The walls are high, patched together with scrap metal and chain-link fencing. "This is it," Sarah says, pulling up to a stop just outside a battered barracks. The gates close behind them with a loud clank, sealing them inside. "Get out," Sarah orders. "Welcome to what's left of civilization. Now get to work." Evan exhales deeply, trying to suppress the knot forming in his stomach. They've entered the heart of a new kind of danger. Survival may not just mean outrunning the infected anymore. The gate creaks shut behind them with a chilling finality, and the sense of security the survivors hoped for quickly fades into a tense uncertainty. The soldiers, stern-faced and unapproachable, guide them out of the car and into the heart of the compound. The air smells of dust and rust, a stark contrast to the fresh, wild scent of the world outside. Inside the walls, the place feels like a fortress, or a prison. Evan surveys his surroundings as they walk toward a row of dilapidated buildings. There's a certain bleakness to the area. Makeshift shelters, tarp tents, and the skeletal remains of abandoned vehicles are scattered around. The walls of the compound are made of scrap metal and concrete, patched together haphazardly, but they're solid, enough to keep the infected out. For now. "Where are we going?" Lena asks, her voice tentative as she walks beside Evan. "You'll see," Sarah says curtly, not bothering to explain. The sound of boots against the cracked pavement echoes in the quiet as they reach a smaller building at the far end of the compound. It looks more fortified than the others, with barbed wire atop its roof and armed soldiers at every entrance. They stop in front of the building, and Sarah turns to face them. Her cold expression doesn't soften as she speaks. "This is our command center. You'll be staying here for now. You're not allowed to wander outside the walls without permission. And remember, you're under our protection as long as you can prove you're useful." Evan nods, already feeling the weight of the tension settling in. "You'll get food and water for now," Sarah continues, her voice clipped, "but no one's free here. You'll work. And if you don't pull your weight, you'll be put to use in other ways." She pauses, her gaze sweeping over them, hard and calculating. "Understand?" The threat is clear, and Evan has no intention of challenging it. They have no other choice but to comply. As Sarah leads them inside, the harsh fluorescent lights flicker above them, casting long shadows across the narrow hallways. The building smells of mildew and stale air, a reminder that even within these walls, survival is fragile. A few soldiers nod as they pass by, their eyes cold and uninterested. There's no camaraderie here, no hope for normalcy. Just survival. Sarah stops at a door and knocks once before opening it. Inside, the room is barren except for a few folding chairs and a small table with a map spread out on it. A few other soldiers are seated around the table, reviewing notes and discussing plans in low voices. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, looks up as they enter. "This is the new crew?" the man asks, his voice gruff. Sarah nods. "They'll be staying for now. If they can prove useful, they'll be assigned tasks. Otherwise, they'll be sent to the barracks until further notice." Evan exchanges a glance with Victor and Lena. They're all in the same boat now, trapped in this place, with no idea of what will come next. Sarah motions to a corner of the room. "Sit. We'll talk later. For now, just rest. You've been through a lot." Evan hesitates but nods, taking a seat near the wall. Lena and Victor do the same, their eyes scanning the room warily. As Sarah leaves the room, the door clicks shut behind her with a dull thud, and a heavy silence settles in. For a long moment, no one speaks. The tension in the room is thick, almost suffocating. Evan can feel it in the pit of his stomach, the gnawing, gut-wrenching feeling that they've walked into a place far darker than they first imagined. "What do you think?" Victor finally asks, his voice low, but the question hangs heavy in the air. "Is this place for real? Or are we just trading one hell for another?" Lena shudders. "It feels wrong. All of this. Like they're hiding something." Evan doesn't disagree. He's felt it since they first arrived, something beneath the surface, an undercurrent of danger that's impossible to ignore. But right now, there's nothing they can do but wait and watch. They have no choice but to play along. "We'll have to be careful," Evan says, his voice low. "Whatever's going on here, we need to stay sharp. Trust no one." The minutes drag on as they sit in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Evan's mind races with possibilities, none of them good. He thinks about the infected outside the walls, their twisted faces haunting him, and the thought of what life will be like within the compound. Survival is no longer a matter of just evading death, it's about making sure you don't fall victim to the cruelty of those who hold power. After a while, the door opens again, and a soldier steps in. He's young, maybe no older than 20, with a nervous energy about him. He glances at the group before speaking. "Sarah wants to see you." Now. Evan feels a knot tighten in his stomach. It's time to find out what they want from him, and what their next move will be. The air inside the command center feels thicker now, as though the very walls are closing in on Evan and his group. The soldier who had called them to Sarah leads them down a narrow hallway, his boots echoing against the concrete floor. Each step feels heavier than the last, and Evan can feel the tension mounting as they approach the door at the end of the hall. The door opens with a soft creak, and Sarah is standing inside, her posture rigid and commanding, the weight of authority clear in her every movement. "Sit," she orders, her gaze never leaving them as she points to the chairs in front of her desk. The room is stark, bare, with only the essentials, a desk, some maps pinned to the walls, and a few scattered papers. There's no warmth here, no sign of life beyond the task at hand. Evan hesitates before sitting down, feeling the weight of the room pressing on him. Lena and Victor follow suit, their eyes darting around the room, clearly uneasy. "Things are changing," Sarah says, her voice steady but firm. "You're here because you can be useful. I don't need anyone who can't contribute to the fight." She pauses, allowing the words to sink in. The air is so thick with anticipation that even the hum of the lights above seems too loud. "We've been losing ground," she continues, her voice lowering slightly. "The infected are getting smarter, and our resources are running low. We've had to make difficult decisions to keep the base running." Evan can feel his pulse quicken. The room feels smaller, like the walls are closing in as Sarah's gaze sharpens. "And now, I need you to make one of those decisions. You're all capable, but what I'm asking for goes beyond just working. This is about survival. The kind that requires sacrifices." Victor leans forward, his voice laced with skepticism. "What kind of sacrifice?" Sarah's eyes flick to him for a moment before she continues. "We need more fuel. We have a fuel depot outside the city, but it's surrounded by infected. If we don't get those supplies, we won't last more than a few more weeks." Evan's stomach tightens. It's a dangerous mission, no matter how you look at it. The infected aren't just mindless zombies, they're unpredictable, and they're everywhere. "Go on," Lena says, her voice hesitant but firm. Sarah looks at them all, her expression unreadable. "I need a team to go to the depot. Secure it, and bring back as much fuel as possible. If you do that, you'll have earned your place here. No more questions. You'll be allowed to stay, to have your supplies, to be part of this group." The implication is clear, this is a one-time offer, and the consequences of refusing would be devastating. The infected outside the walls are bad, but being cast out into the wilderness without resources or allies would be worse. "We don't have the manpower to risk sending too many," Sarah continues, her tone growing colder. "So I'll give you the option. You go, or you stay behind. But don't mistake this for a kindness. If you stay, you'll be expected to contribute to the daily tasks. That means cleaning, scouting, and anything else we need done. You don't get to sit idle here." The weight of the decision hits Evan all at once. There's no easy choice. The depot is a suicide mission, and the idea of leaving the safety of the walls is terrifying. But if they stay, they'll be stuck in this sterile prison, at the mercy of Sarah and her soldiers, forced into a life that's nothing more than a slow death by boredom and despair. Victor speaks first, his voice thick with resignation. We'll go. We'll get the fuel. Lena, after a long pause, nods. Yeah. We'll do it. Evan's heart pounds in his chest as he takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. We'll go, he says finally, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. Sarah watches them for a long moment before nodding, as if she expected their decision. Good. I'll give you the coordinates. You leave at first light. Get the fuel and don't come back without it. Evan stands up, his mind already racing with plans and contingencies. They've just committed to a deadly mission, but what other choice did they have? The alternative was staying in a place that might as well have been a cage, with no future but more survival. They don't have time to waste. The world outside these walls is a wasteland of chaos, where the infected lurk around every corner, and the people who remain are as dangerous as the monsters that hunt them. As they turn to leave, Sarah calls out, her voice tinged with a finality that chills him to the bone. Remember this, in a world like this, survival is everything. And survival comes at a cost. Are you prepared to pay it? Evan doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The weight of her words lingers, a stark reminder that in this new world, there is no easy way out. Everyone has to make sacrifices. Some bigger than others. As they leave the room, the door closing behind them with a soft click, the reality of their situation settles in. They're about to head into the heart of danger, where the infected are waiting. And the cost of survival? It might just cost them everything.